Welcome back to part 2 of building the strumstick. We're going to start by sanding everything down, getting it nice and smooth and finished up. Then we're going to install the fret wire, then the tuners, and then the strings, a bridge, and start making some music. So welcome back to part 2, and we'll get right to it with the sanding. Alright, sorry about the jet noise in the background. It must be F-35 launch time today. So anyway, we'll just use a variety of powered and hand sanding tools, blocks, a bunch of different grits and foams and different shapes and stuff. I always use a respirator here, especially with this mahogany. Seems to make a really fine red dust that kind of gets all up in your lungs and such, and then hearing and eye protection too. Next up is cutting the fret wire. So I've got first the jumbo one, and that's going to go in this very top fret, which is going to be the nut. So I'll sit that in there, and between a rubber mallet and a regular hammer, we'll pop that in there. And then snip it close to the edge as I can. And that thick one is pretty tight there, but that stays in real nice. So that was the thick one. Now we'll get the medium wire and do the rest of the frets with medium wire. Ideally, I think you'd want like a plastic tipped hammer, because a regular hammer can dent if you hit too hard on there. Man. And then I'm sure there's a better snip than this as well, but you go with the tools you got. But just a few tools specific to this, basically that real thin, to cut these fret notches. And really, that's about the only, and the little miter box, but really you can use any miter box for that, as long as it has room for a nice thin curve. So buying specific snips and a specific hammer may be worth it, but I didn't do it this time. Anyway, we'll get the rest of these done. For these last 3 fret wires that are just right below the tuner holes, those are like the thinnest ones. So just these real thin frets. And those are just to keep the wire from, or the wire from digging into the wood at the bottom of each of these. So those are the smallest ones, that's the thickest one, the rest of these are all medium, the rest of the way down. Now I want to sand all the frets so that my fingers don't catch on, where I snipped them off, it makes kind of a sharp edge, so you don't want to be catching your fingers on there. So all I do is I use a little sandpaper drum and a electric drill. You can do it with a file, so a metal file, and just file the edges down, or a Dremel or anything like that. You just want to be careful not to damage the wood when you're doing this. But all I want to do is kind of smooth the edges just so that you don't catch your fingers on there. Nice and smooth. So we'll do that to all of these. All right, then the next step is I just kind of take a little file and continue to kind of round the edges. You got to be very careful again not to gouge into the wood. It just takes a few passes on each fret to make sure you clean up any leftover sharp edges. And it just makes it more comfortable when you're playing. But it really only takes, 3 or 4, scrapes per fret. I can run my hands across there real smooth and not catch any sharp edges. And we just tap them again one more time just to make sure they're still seated after messing around with the frets with the sandpaper and the file. So on to the next step. All right, next up I got to measure just above the nut. So I go from the nut, I go right above it. And I need to measure in 3/16 of an inch from either side. And place a mark. Then I'm going to drill a hole in each one of those marks and put in one of these little brass nails. These are, what do they say? 14 by 3/4 inch or 2 millimeter by 19 millimeter brass plated nails. So I'll put one in there and one in there. So we'll have one wire going down the middle and then one on the outside of each of these. Now I measure a half an inch up from the bottom. And then I lay this ruler on here so it's perfectly aligned with the neck of the guitar or of the instrument. Because I want this center wire to come straight down the center of the neck. And so all I do is I just take that ruler and I line it up right down the neck. And then I put a mark right at the end. All right, now I take my ruler and I put that point right on a half inch. So this should be the width of my neck, and I come in 1, 2, 3/16, put a mark, and 1, 2, 3/16, and put a mark. And that should be where the other 2 nails need to go. Now, to check that, I'll run a string from here down, and I'll just check and make sure that it's about a 3/16 in the whole way down the neck. So I have a guitar string here. You can quite see this, but I'll put one on the outside of this nail, run it down to the mark I made, and we'll see that it's about 3/16 of an inch in the whole way down the neck. I'll do the same thing with this nail, put it right on the center, and it is about 3/16 inch the whole way down. And then I'll do it one more time with the center and make sure it's in the center, which it is. And now I'll drill these same holes just like I did up here and put those nails in. And then the reason we put these a 1/2 inch up from the bottom is, you remember, that's that solid piece in there. So that makes sure it goes into the solid piece and not just through this, 1/4 inch top piece here. We leave them sticking up about 1/8 of an inch down there as well. All right, now for finishing, I just use this boiled linseed oil, place it on with a rag, let it soak in, and then wipe any excess off. And I'll usually do 2 coats of that. It really brings out the beautiful color and grain of this mahogany. I just think it looks beautiful. But you can use whatever stain you like. If you want it lighter, darker, do different stains on the front and back or the neck, just whatever design you think is neat. Especially if you're using different wood on the front and back, you can make that look really cool. I want to dry off overnight, maybe do another coat. And then we can put in our tuners, string it up, put in the bridge, and start playing music. I just love that part, like where the end grain and the side grain meet. I just think that looks really nice. Get that effect on the bottom too. Now, these tuners come with a bit of hardware. All we really need out of them are these tiny little screws. So what I'm going to do is I've placed each tuner in here. So basically you just take the tuner, slide it in the tuner hole. You want to make sure the barrel is below, so closer to the end than the knob. So it should go like this. Knob on top, barrel on bottom. And I just do them with these 3. So I've got, 2 on one side, 1 on the other. You can do them all in a row. So if I take this one out and put a different one in, let's see. First I happen to get all the same side. I can put them all in like so that they're all on one side. All right, and just work my way, bottom to top. So it's entirely up to you which way you want to do this. But once you've decided, all you do is just take a really tiny drill bit and drill in each of the holes there, and then put these tiny screws in. So for this one, I'm going to put them all on the bottom side there. So when I'm playing the guitar or the instrument, they'll all be down here. So I can just tune them, with one hand down here without flipping it over. I think that'll look pretty nice. All I really want to do, especially if I have them all on the same side, is I just want them all to line up real nice, just like so. So I've drilled the first set of holes, and then you got to use just the tiniest little screwdriver to put in these tiny screws. It's almost like working on an iPhone or something. These screws are just really little. So get them started here. And you just screw them on in. For the bridge, I just used a block of cherry wood, and I just cut a little triangle slice of it. I'm not sure really how tall that is. It looks like about a little over 1/8 of an inch for now. So we'll start with that, and then you'll change, the height of this bridge to get the right, whatever action you want there on the strings, how high you want them above the frets. But I'm going to just use this little piece of cherry wood for that. Next up will be stringing. All right, for stringing this, I just used the first 3 strings from a guitar. And make a loop. Just so we have a tiny loop here. And then I'll put that down around the first string. Bring it up. On the outside. Oops. Alright, just on the outside of this. Like so. And through the tuner hole, over the top once. Back up through twice. Back up through down through the center, hole in the tuner. Pull it tight. And then we'll just start twisting it until it's somewhat tight here. All right, so that's string one. The second one will go in here, third one will go in here. You just kind of want to keep that bottom part down until it kind of clicks into place. Now it's nice and tight. So we'll do that for the next two strings. All right, now I'm going to place the bridge in here. Slide it down. And I just measure from the tip of the nut to the top of the bridge. The first one is 57.8 centimeters down. There's 57.8, and then the other one on the fat string is 57.7 centimeters down. So we're down just a hair. Now I just need to tune it. All right, for final tuning, I just put it to D, A, D. So the low string on the top here is a D. Same as off a guitar. Middle string is going to be an A. And then the top string's another D. So D, A, D. What's the other one? G, D, G is another common tuning. And then there are 100 different tunings to get whatever chords and sounds you want out of there. But I like this one because it sounds pretty mellow. And you can do like Amazing Grace. Like I said, I don't really have any skill with these instruments. It's just fun because you can take one finger and and play. Just about anything you want on it. Real fun. So thanks for following along with me on this build. If you have any questions, just throw them in the comments. I really like the finish on this one with the mahogany, but you can make it out of just about any kind of wood, really. And I just thought this one was nice and pretty. I'm gonna give it to my dad for a present. And anyway, hope you enjoy building it and get to play a bunch. Thanks for following along.